Adam lives 930 years. The breath leaves his lungs. The dirt covers his face, and he dies. Seth lives 912 years. The mourners gather, but if you look closer at the architecture of the Hebrew poetry, at the exact moment the rhythm shatters, you start to see something. The graves multiply in the valleys. He walks. The culture around him begins to rot with violence. He walks. 300 years of deliberate, unyielding, rhythmic steps. Every morning, the sky lightens. Every morning. He chooses the gravity of a kingdom he cannot see. He initiates his palate to the taste of Eden. He pulls the reality of the uncursed garden right into the center of a cursed earth. But this relentless rhythm sets him apart. It makes him an anomaly. And in an increasingly brutal ancient world, being an anomaly is dangerous. Because he is not the only man in the seventh generation making a choice. Just a few miles away, another descendant of Adam is carving a very different path into the dirt. Genesis does not place the story of Enoch in a vacuum. It places him in a deliberate, terrifying mirror. If you trace the lineage of Cain down to the exact same seventh generation, you do not find a man cultivating a hidden rhythm with the divine. You find a man named Lamech standing over a body. Genesis chapter 4 introduces Lamech as the seventh from Adam through the line of Cain, standing in stark contrast to Enoch, the seventh from Adam through the line of Seth. The text records that Lamech's family is the first to master metallurgy, pulling copper and iron from the earth and heating it over roaring fires to forge weapons. The bridge reading completely misses. The most important detail in Genesis 5 isn't that everyone dies. It is the sudden, violent disruption of the pattern. You can almost feel the blistering heat of those ancient kilns and hear the deafening, metallic ring of a hammer striking an anvil to shape a blade. But Lamech does not just build tools for survival. He composes a poem. It is the first recorded song in human history after the garden, and it is a song of pure, unadulterated violence. He gathers his two wives and boasts that he has killed a man for merely wounding him, and a young boy for merely striking him. He declares that if Cain is avenged sevenfold, then Lamech will be avenged 77-fold. This dual genealogy is not a random historical record. It is a theological map showing the two ultimate trajectories of humanity. While Enoch is learning how to pace the perimeter of the unseen kingdom, Lamech is claiming absolute dominion over the cursed one. Lamech weaponizes the fall, wrapping his hands around the cold, heavy bronze of a forged sword and demanding that the world bow to his ability to inflict pain. He looks at the brutal reality of death and decides to become its master, accelerating the bloodshed until the soil itself is saturated with the metallic stench of human violence. One man crowns himself a king of the dirt. The other man simply walks. The author of Genesis places these two men side by side to force a profound crisis in the mind of the reader. Right in the middle of the graveyard, the text stumbles. The funeral march stops. The bell refuses to ring. The question isn't why. Both men are living in the exact same unforgiving environment, breathing the same dusty air, and facing the same inevitable grave. But they represent the ultimate divergence of the human heart. Lamech chooses the path of extraction, drawing his power from the strength of his own hands and the sharpness of his own sword. Enoch chooses the path of allegiance, anchoring his fragile, mortal existence to a God who holds the breath of every living thing. For 300 years, that quiet, steady allegiance continues while the rest of the world descends into the violent chaos of Lamech's song. And that relentless, invisible walk eventually leads Enoch to a physical threshold that no human being had ever crossed. The 300th year arrives. The walk continues. You can hear the rhythmic crunch of sand under his sandals. You can feel the cool evening wind against his face. The shadows stretch long across the ancient valley. For 3 centuries, Enoch has paced the perimeter of the unseen kingdom. Every day, the gravity of the cursed earth grows weaker. Every day, the cadence of the divine gets louder. And then, Genesis 5, verse 24 gives us the climax of the genealogy. The men before him lived so long. It is what happened in the dark that caused one man to bypass the grave entirely. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. The funeral bell of the 5th chapter rings 8 times, and he died. But when the heavy iron hammer swings to strike Enoch's name, it shatters against this single Hebrew phrase, V'yinenu, and he was not. A complete, sudden absence. The footprints in the dust simply stop, but the mystery is unlocked in the very next breath, for God took him. The English word took feels polite. It feels gentle. It sounds like a quiet escort out of the room. But the word the ancient scribe writes in the Hebrew text is lakach. It is not a passive word. Lakach means to seize, to grasp, to take violently, to snatch away and claim as one's own possession. It is the exact same verb used in Genesis chapter 2. When God takes the man and places him in the garden, it is the exact same verb used in the book of 2 Kings. Centuries later, when the fiery chariot descends, the whirlwind rips across the desert, and the heavens take Elijah into the sky. Lakach implies a sudden, overwhelming apprehension. That single root changes everything. It reframes the entire departure. The ascension of Enoch is not a magic trick. It is the inevitable collision of two worlds. Enoch is not a fairy tale about a man who magically floated away into the clouds. He is not a mythological anomaly placed. For 300 years, Enoch pulled the atmosphere of the uncursed garden into the cursed dirt. He walked so closely, so consistently, and so intimately with the Creator that the boundary between the physical earth and the unseen kingdom simply dissolved. The gravity of heaven finally outweighed the gravity of the fall. God did not just invite him over the threshold. God snatched him from the grip of the grave. His departure is not a reward for flawless moral behavior. It is the natural, physical consequence of absolute allegiance. The funeral bell stops. The ledger of death is broken. The dust loses its claim on a human body. Enoch is not an ancient fairy tale. He is a trespasser. He is the first man to prove that the grave is not the absolute ruler of the human story. The cadence of his walk broke the curse, but that ancient walk did not end when his footprints vanished from the sand. The echo of those 300 years is still ringing, and the rhythm he discovered in the dust is the exact cure for the disease of our modern age. That disease is the frantic, terrifying hum of the modern world. We are a species haunted by the exact same shadow. In the text, just to confuse us, he is the prototype. Genesis gives him exactly 4 verses, a microscopic sliver of real estate that fell over the 5th chapter of Genesis. We know the bell is going to ring. We know the grave is waiting. We can smell the sharp, sterile alcohol of hospital hallways and hear the rhythmic beep of heart monitors, constantly reminding us that our bodies are fragile and the timeline is brutally short. And our response to this reality looks exactly like Lamech's. We build, we forge, we extract. We stare into the cold blue light of glass screens at midnight, desperately trying to construct a legacy, a reputation, or a digital footprint that might somehow outlast our own beating hearts. We construct massive cities of steel and concrete, hoping the sheer vertical weight of our architecture will make us immortal. You can see this phantom walk everywhere. It is the hollow look in the eyes of people pacing crowded airport terminals, pulling heavy suitcases over polished tile, dragging the weight of their own exhaustion. We vibrate on the frequency of pure anxiety, our pockets constantly buzzing with demands, running as fast as we can on a treadmill of our own making. We are terrified of the dust, so we run. But building a faster machine does not stop the funeral march. It just makes the graveyard louder. To summarize 365 years on this planet, he speaks no words in the Genesis account. He parts no seas. He builds no arks. Enoch did not build a single city. He did not forge a single bronze sword. He did not leave behind a manifesto, or a stone monument for anyone to remember him by. He simply locked his stride with the unseen. In a culture addicted to velocity, the most subversive thing a human being can do is change their cadence. The walk of Enoch is not a physical escape from the modern world. It is a neurological rebellion. It is the deliberate choice to stop keeping time with a society that is rushing toward its own decay. It means anchoring your daily 62. Ordinary. Physical steps to a reality that is not falling apart. It means standing in the middle of a chaotic, fluorescent-lit office, or sitting in a car surrounded by the deafening blare of gridlocked traffic, and choosing to breathe the air of the uncursed garden. It means letting the palate of your soul be initiated, Enoch, to a different taste, until the frantic, exhausting desires of the modern world to begin to feel like dry ash in your mouth. But how do you actually cross that threshold? And yet, this shadow of a man becomes the singular obsession of later biblical writers, carrying a weight that defies his brief appearance. How do you step into that 300-year rhythm when the heavy machinery of your own life is screaming in your ears? A cursed lineage marched relentlessly toward the dirt, and one man simply refused the cadence. The seventh generation of Cain forged bronze weapons to master the earth, and the seventh generation of Seth walked a quiet perimeter to escape it. A newborn's palate was initiated with a taste for something new, and an appetite for the unseen kingdom woke up in his chest. A father held his son in the flickering light of a tent, and a 300-year rebellion against the dust began. The heavy bell of Genesis chapter 5 tolled 8 times for the dead, and shattered completely against a single man's faith. The ancient footprints stopped abruptly in the desert sand, and the boundary between heaven and earth dissolved. A mortal body was violently snatched from the grip of the grave, and the prototype for every resurrected believer was established forever. Same dirt, same God. But here is the part I keep coming back to. The first 65 years, Enoch was not born glowing. He did not float above the thorns. For 65 years, he breathed the same arid wind. He worked the same stubborn soil, and he bled from the exact same cuts as his cursed ancestors. The anomaly did not begin with a magical departure. We are told he lived 65 years, had a son, and then something shifted. A veil lifted. For the next 3 centuries, he entered. It began with an ordinary man deciding, right in the middle of a dying world, to lock his stride with the divine. If you are in a season where the frantic hum of the modern world feels like a slow, exhausting march toward the grave, Genesis 5 is a place to stop running. The answer is not to forge a heavier sword or build a higher wall. The answer is to change your cadence. The Creator is not asking you to flee the physical earth. He is asking you to pull the air of the uncursed garden right into the chaotic, fluorescent-lit room where you are standing. And may the God who violently seized a walking man from the grip of the dust walk with you through your own chaotic world and initiate your palate to a kingdom that cannot be shaken. If this opened something up for you, subscribe. Leave a comment, even one word helps. Share this with someone who feels exhausted by the pace of the modern death march. Pray for us as we keep digging into these texts, into a mode of existence so profoundly different from his ancestors that the ancient writers struggled to find the vocabulary for it. The stones are rolled over the grave, and he dies. Enoch lives 905 years. The earth claims his bones, and he dies. Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared, 300 years of walking, breathing, and moving on the earth, yet vibrating on a frequency that no one else could hear. 3 centuries of hidden history. Most people think the climax of Enoch's story is his departure. But the departure is just the epilogue. The real mystery is the walk. To trace those footsteps, to figure out what actually happened during those missing 300 years, you have to step into the world he was born into. Because the man who escaped the ground did not start out in the sky. He started out in the dust. Open the scroll of Genesis. Trace your finger down the 5th chapter. It is a ledger of decay. Black ink on rough parchment, recording the unstoppable math of the curse. Men are born. They have sons. They have daughters. They grow old. They turn back to dirt. The structure of the Hebrew text is a cage. It locks every single patriarch into the exact same grammatical formula. A fixed equation with 0 variables. Name, age, offspring, death. Adam lives 930 years. The equation ends in death. Seth lives 912 years. The equation ends in death. Enoch lives 905 years. The equation ends in death. Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared. We read these chapters today and get caught up in the math. The names pile up. The centuries pass. Cities are built from mud and stone. Weapons are forged. Children are born. And the ground swallows them all. We argue about the biology of the ancient world. We debate whether the centuries were literal time or symbolic numbers. We read with modern minds. Trying to solve a scientific puzzle, we miss the point entirely. The length of those years is not a testament to their strength. It is an amplifier of the tragedy. Imagine living 900 years. 9 centuries of watching the soil crack under the brutal sun. 9 centuries of burying your children's children. Wrapping bodies in linen. Lowering them into the earth. 9 centuries of feeling the thorns grow thicker in the fields. The winters grow colder in the bones. The memory of Eden fading. From a vibrant reality into a desperate rumor. The air is heavy. The ground is cursed. The work is endless sweat and calloused hands. Death is not a sudden shock. It is a slow, creeping inevitability. Genesis 5 is not a celebration of human longevity. It is a slow-motion documentation of the fall. The ancient author is building a wall of bricks. Each generation is another row. The wall gets higher. The shadows get longer. The gravity of the grave becomes the only absolute law of human existence. You cannot fight it. You cannot outrun it. You just wait for your name to be written in the ledger. The dust always wins. The rhythm is unrelenting. If you open your Bible to the 5th chapter of Genesis, you will hear a funeral march until the 7th generation. In biblical literature, 7 is never an accident. It is the number of completion, the climax of a sequence, the moment the pattern is meant to reach its zenith. Jared, the 6th from Adam, lives 162 years in this cursed world. He has a son. When the ancient scribe dips his reed pen to record this boy's arrival, the rhythm is about to break. The grammatical cage is about to fracture. But the disruption does not begin at the end of this man's life. The rebellion against the dust begins on the day he is born. The name Jared whispers over his newborn son is not a random collection of sounds. It is an architectural blueprint. And to understand how a man can walk out of the world without dying, you have to decode the Hebrew root of what he was called. Jared stands in the low, flickering light of an animal skin tent. The smell of wood smoke and sweat hangs heavy in the air. Outside, the world is growing increasingly violent. The soil is stubborn, and the shadow of the grave looms over every family line. Jared holds a newborn boy in his hands, looks down at the child, and speaks a name. The word translated as Enoch in your English Bible is the Hebrew name Chanok. It is a word that carries an immense, hidden weight. It is a slow, heavy, repetitive tolling of an ancient bell, 8 times in a single chapter. The Hebrew text strikes the exact same devastating chord. It comes from the Hebrew root chanach. And to understand it, you have to understand ancient midwifery. In the ancient Near East, when a baby was born, a midwife would sometimes take a mixture of crushed dates or olive oil and vigorously rub it onto the roof of the infant's mouth. The physical action was designed to stimulate the child's gums, to train the palate, and to initiate the reflex to swallow. She was introducing a sensation. She was creating a taste for something the child had never experienced, so they would learn how to eat. That exact action is the root meaning of chanach: to train up, to initiate, to create an appetite for something new. Centuries later, this exact same Hebrew root is used to describe the dedication of the massive stone temple in Jerusalem, a moment saturated with the thick smell of burning incense, the heat of the altar, and the deafening, rhythmic blast of ram's horns. The building is initiated. It is brought into its sacred purpose. A name in the ancient world is not a random label. It is a prophecy. Jared is not just giving his son a title. He is declaring an initiation. He is asking for a divine appetite to be awakened in the boy's chest. But for the first 65 years of his life, Enoch looks exactly like the rest of the cursed lineage. He is a man of the dirt. He walks the same dusty paths. He breathes the same arid wind, Vayamot. And he died. And he died. And he died. You can feel the grit of the ancient dust on your skin. He works the same stubborn soil. His hands undoubtedly calloused by the exact same thorns that cut his father and his grandfather. He lives in the suffocating rhythm of the death march, waiting for his own entry into the ledger. Then, at age 65, the text tells us he fathers a son named Methuselah. And right there, the script flips. The birth of that boy does not just add another branch to the family tree. It triggers a seismic internal shift. The initiation finally takes hold. The taste for another world is suddenly violently awakened in his palate, and the ordinary genealogy is abruptly severed. The first half of his life ends, and the 300-year mystery begins. The book of Genesis does not explicitly explain what happens in the man's mind on the day he holds Methuselah, but the writer of Hebrews, looking back at this exact moment, thousands of years later, tells us exactly what kind of fire was ignited in the dark. Fast forward thousands of years. The writer of Hebrews sits with ink and parchment, looking back across the chasm of history, and distills Enoch's entire 3-century anomaly down to a single Greek word, pistis, faith. By faith, Enoch was taken up so that he should not see death, and he was not found, because God had taken him. Now, before he was taken, he was commended as having pleased God. You can hear the wailing in the tents. You can smell the incense burning for the dead. Generation after generation. A massive, unbroken chain. We hear the word faith today, and we immediately flatten it. We reduce it to a mental exercise. We think it means believing in a list of doctrines, holding the right theological opinions in our heads while we wait out the clock in a cursed world. We treat faith as an intellectual parachute. But, in the ancient, first-century mind, pistis was dense. It had weight. It meant allegiance. It meant anchoring your entire mass to a reality you could not touch, with your hands, and letting that invisible architecture dictate every physical step you take. Faith is not a passive intellectual agreement. It is a radical, living allegiance that alters the gravity of the room you are standing in. When Methuselah is born, Enoch does not retreat to a cave. He does not become a silent mystic in the desert, detached from the dirt and the grit of ancient family life. The text explicitly tells us he continues to have other sons and daughters. He still has to harvest the stubborn fields. He still has to mend the heavy animal skin tents. He still feels the burning sun on his neck and the cold wind at night. If this realization that the deepest spiritual realities are meant to be lived right in the middle of the ordinary dirt is stirring something inside you, you're exactly who this channel is for. Drop a thought in the comments and hit subscribe, because every week we go deeper into the text than you knew was possible. So, Enoch continues his ordinary life, but his center of gravity has completely shifted, of mortality stretching from Eden to the flood. Most people assume this chapter is just a bridge, a boring, dusty genealogy to skim past. For 300 years, he holds the note. It is one thing to have a momentary revelation, a sudden burst of spiritual clarity. It is another thing entirely to sustain it for 3 centuries while watching the people around you slowly crumble into dust. He is breathing the arid air of the ancient Near East, but his lungs are drawing oxygen from a kingdom no one else can see. The death march is still beating its drum all around him. The funeral fires are still burning on the horizon, but he is no longer keeping time with the rhythm of the fall. He is vibrating on a different frequency. He has learned a new rhythm. And to describe exactly what that rhythm looked like on a daily basis, Genesis reaches for a verb that will eventually define the entire biblical concept of what it means to know God. The sandals hit the dirt. The dust rises. The sun beats down on the stubborn fields. Enoch works. He bleeds. He sweats. He raises sons and daughters in a world that is tearing itself apart at the seams. But the text tells us something else is happening simultaneously. Look at Genesis chapter 5. Verse 21. The English translation reads like a polite, simple summary. It says, Enoch walked with God after he fathered Methuselah 300 years, on the way to Noah and the ark. A list of unpronounceable names that holds no spiritual value for a modern reader. The word the English translators are trying to capture is the Hebrew verb halach. It means to walk, to go, to move. But the ancient scribe does not use the standard, simple form of this verb. He uses an intensive grammatical structure called the hithpale stem. It describes a continuous, habitual, reflexive motion. It is a pacing back and forth. It is an action that becomes a perpetual state of being. It is a rhythm that fundamentally alters the person who steps into it. He is locking his stride with the divine. He is breathing the cadence of the unseen. The word carries an immense, heartbreaking echo. To hear it, you have to turn back 2 chapters. Genesis chapter 3. The Garden of Eden. The sun is sinking low. The evening breeze is cooling the skin. And the text tells us the Creator was halach, walking in the garden in the cool of the day. Eden was defined by this shared walk. The fall shattered the rhythm. Adam hid in the trees. The footsteps faded. Now, 7 generations deep into the curse, breathing the ash of a dying world, a man picks up the cadence again. This walk is not a quiet spiritual metaphor. It is a violent rebellion against the dust. The world demands decay. He walks.